Okay, this is why I believe game consoles are being killed. When I say killed, I don't mean consoles are going to completely disappear forever, but they're definitely not going to be the mainstream form of gaming that they've historically been. And Microsoft has already laid out most of the groundwork for this dynamic to change, and I'm going to explain exactly how by giving you a bit of a timeline. Now, the PS4 and the Xbox One battle, it was the most important console war battle, and it will continue to have significant, long-lasting consequences for the gaming industry as a whole. We all remember when they had the whole sharing games mess and the whole is this thing a console or a streaming box fiasco from E3 2013. And that's why Sony immediately won that battle before it even began. However, unlike the previous generations, this generation started the widespread adoption of digital game downloads. They existed on PS3 and Xbox 360, but it wasn't every game, and not everyone had good enough internet to do it back then. PS4 and Xbox One is where everyone started building up their digital game libraries, and that's where Microsoft's real problems began. Here's why. Because after the PS4 and Xbox One were over, and it was time to move on to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, all those people who downloaded games on PS4 were most likely going to stay with PlayStation and buy a PS5 so they can keep their PSN account and keep all the games they downloaded. And since Microsoft sold far less consoles and therefore had far less people downloading games during this generation, they're going to be feeling the effects of this for many years to come. So Microsoft decided to switch to a new plan, and they've been placing all their best efforts into preparing for the future of cloud gaming and winning the cloud wars. But in order for Xbox to win the cloud war, Xbox is going to have to end the console war. Not by winning it, but by killing the whole console concept entirely. And the first step in their master plan was to buy Minecraft in 2014, but not make it Xbox exclusive. They kept Minecraft on PlayStation, on Nintendo, on PCs, on phones. What they were trying to do when they did that is give people less reasons to fight over which console is better. Instead of people saying, Xbox is better because we have Minecraft and no one else does, they want people to say, I guess it doesn't matter which device I buy since I can play Minecraft on anything. Well, Microsoft truly wants us to have all games be playable on all devices. So people will spend less time fighting over whose device is better and more time fighting over which games and which storefronts and subscriptions are better, which is exactly the way it is with movies. You could stream or download any movie digitally across any device from multiple different storefronts and subscription services. Any phone or any PC or any TV can access Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Prime, etc. and get all them movies. This is why Microsoft has been buying up the studios like Bethesda and Activision Blizzard. It's not for building a console-exclusive games lineup, it's for building the Netflix of games with Game Pass. But there's a bit of a problem with Game Pass. The cloud technology we have now is simply not ready for AAA gaming yet. You can subscribe to Game Pass, you can access all those games, keyword is access, but most of them need to be downloaded to your Xbox or downloaded to your PC in order to actually be played, because internet speeds and our current devices simply aren't ready to run games through the cloud without seriously struggling. That's why Google Stadia fell. That's why all the other cloud gaming services have been niche compared to non-cloud gaming, at least. The reason this is a problem is that without the cloud, not every PC and not every phone is powerful enough to run most AAA games. Custom-built NVIDIA rigs and the latest iPhone might be able to run the latest Call of Duty off an SD card, but not your cheap MacBook or LG piece of shit. The cloud is what will truly allow games to be playable on any device, the same way as movies. And it doesn't have to be limited to PCs and phones either. The cloud is what's going to let smart TVs and streaming boxes be added to this list as well. There's one more obstacle standing in Microsoft's way right now: PlayStation. Since PlayStation has been winning the console war so far, they want to keep the console concept alive. Hence why the PS4 and PS5 have had many high-budget exclusive games. But Microsoft has already greenlighted the end of this concept in the form of crossplay. You see, in 2017, a little-known game called Fortnite came out, and it was a free online multiplayer game playable on any device, all consoles, PCs, and phones. And you could play and chat with people from all platforms instead of being limited to the people on your platform. Console could play with PC, console could play with phone, PC could play with phone, etc. But cross-platform communication, or crossplay, wasn't allowed between different consoles. Xbox players couldn't cross-play with PlayStation players and vice versa, because Sony simply wouldn't allow it. They wanted people to be forced to buy a PS4 in order to play with their friends who also had PS4s, which is another historical aspect of the console war. However, for a brief moment in 2017, Epic Games accidentally turned on crossplay between consoles for a little bit, allowing PS4 and Xbox One players to play with and communicate with each other. And once people knew that this was a possibility and was only a click of a mouse away, everybody, companies and consumers, started begging Sony to let PlayStation crossplay with other consoles, since they were the only ones who didn't want it. The pressure became even greater in 2018 when Fortnite and Minecraft released for the Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo and Microsoft decided to market Xbox and Nintendo crossplay and rub it in Sony's face. They teamed up and marketed it together, is what I'm saying, which caused Sony to finally relent and allow crossplay between PlayStation and all other consoles starting in 2019. What crossplay also did was remove yet another reason for players to fight over consoles. Why fight over whose online service has more players or better players when players across all platforms can now play with each other? This is the real reason why Microsoft embraced crossplay. Now, the only thing PlayStation truly has going for them is their exclusive games. But once the gaming audience is fragmented across dozens of different devices that can all play the same games via the cloud, people are going to have much less of a reason to separately buy a $500 or $600 PlayStation just to play Spider-Man 3 or whatever, when they can just buy or stream any other game they want on whatever other console or PC or phone or whatever device they own. Which means Sony is going to have less of a reason to make Spider-Man a PlayStation console exclusive when they could sell far more copies and make far more money publishing it on the cloud across all devices the way Microsoft is envisioning. Xbox's next console for 2028 has already been leaked, and is going to be a hybrid cloud/specs console. It'll have the hardware specs needed to run game downloads offline, but it'll primarily be marketed as a Game Pass/xCloud streaming device. So it's basically just going to be like the Series X without a disk drive, and the cloud functionality is going to be way better. Only time will tell with how Sony responds to this and how they prepare for this future. But, so, TLDR, Microsoft bought Minecraft, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard while keeping all their games multi-platform instead of making them Xbox exclusive, because they want people to have one less reason to fight over which console is better. And then they implemented crossplay into Minecraft and Fortnite so that people wouldn't have to choose a console based on which console their friends were playing on. Once again, giving people one less reason to fight over which console is better. And now they're working on perfecting the cloud so that high-end AAA games can be played on any smart TV, phone, PC, Roku box, whatever, without people worrying about buying expensive hardware specs. Which means instead of PlayStation exclusives competing with Xbox and Nintendo exclusives, they'll be competing against all other games available in the cloud. It'll be Do I buy a PlayStation to play Spider-Man 3, or do I just turn on my phone and see what Game Pass has available to buy? So unless Sony decides to drop the exclusivity thing and publish PlayStation games via the cloud across all devices, there's going to be a lot less people willing to buy a $500 or $600 console just to play a few exclusives, which means Sony's going to sell a lot less games and possibly lose relevancy. And the other big reason Microsoft wants to kill the console is that one of the most important aspects of game consoles has always been the razor and blades model. Since they've been losing the console war for so long, the razor and blades model has done nothing but hurt them. For the sake of simple numbers, a razor you buy at the store might cost you $2, even though it costs Gillette $5 to make it, because they make back the difference in the long run by selling you blades for $1 to $2 when it costs them 10 cents to make those. Game consoles are the same way. At launch, they usually cost at least $100 or $200 less to buy them than what they're built for, and then they make back the money from publishing fees and first-party exclusive games. So if people are buying your console and you're selling lots of games, you're golden. But if not enough people are buying your console or you're not selling enough games, it can leave your company billions of dollars in the red and completely bankrupt you, which is why so many former game console companies like Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Sega, NEC, and Panasonic have all dropped out from this race. Since Microsoft has been losing the console war to PlayStation for so long, they've been selling less games and they've been making less margins, or sometimes, that's basically it. Yeah, they're selling less games, so they're losing out on the razor and blades model. And I'm gonna drop that subject now, and I'm going to use this last part to talk about Nintendo. Ever since the N64, Nintendo was always in second or third place to PlayStation in the console war, losing generation after generation. So they branched out with the Wii, and they made a console that appealed beyond the traditional hardcore gamer. But the Wii's motion controls were kind of gimmicky and it became somewhat of a fad, so Nintendo decided to try something new with their next console. A tablet, handheld looking thing that you connected to your TV and you use it like a giant Nintendo DS. They called it the Wii U. I was in 5th grade when this thing came out and I didn't get it for years at first. And neither did most people. It sold horribly. But what Nintendo realized, even before the Wii U was made, was that while they'd been losing the console war to PlayStation for decades, they'd been owning the handheld war, with Game Boy, GBA, DS, and 3DS basically having almost no competition, or very marginal competition. So instead of making a console with handheld capabilities like the Wii U, what they needed and decided to do next was to make a handheld with console capabilities, the Switch. Instead of having two separate teams competing in two separate markets, Nintendo merged their home console and their handheld development teams in 2017 so they could focus on making great games for one platform. A platform that is first and foremost a handheld. So Nintendo exited the console war in 2017, leaving us with only two competitors, PlayStation and Xbox. And so that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed listening to this.